Oh, I tried making this video yesterday, and I get off on a tangent and can't get back. So I'm going to try it a little different. Hope this thing stays up. We're over there now. Okay, stay focused. You're the Republican Party. You had you're riding on the coattails of the Reagan experience. Then Bush Sr. comes on the scene. That wasn't so hot. Then you lose. You get Bill Clinton. He wins 2 terms, and you're realizing that if you're going to win another election, something's got to change. And so you're going to do something where you can broaden your appeal to the voters. Get people that did not vote for you before. So you choose to speak Spanish, or they did all kinds of funky stuff. Ignore the lint. I can't get past this lint thing because you're on top of the laundry. So you're the Republican Party, and instead of being, you want to get that big tent approach. You're going to bring more people in, and you got to figure out how you're going to do it. You don't have your voter base isn't enough to get you through the next election. So your options are change your message, which if you go back that far at that time, the Republicans really have not had a message since Reagan. They just wrote out his thing for so long. Lower taxes, smaller government, less regulation, security, this kind of thing. Something to that effect. So they realize they've got to either change their message, and if they can't change their message, they should at least ignore parts of it that aren't getting much play, that aren't appealing to these other groups. Or take some of their opposition's points, issues, and bring them on board. Maybe become more environmentalist or more welfare friendly or something like that. And so the Republican Party realized they've got to take advantage of one or all of these options, trying to win the next election. And really, they failed at that. What got Bush in was the same-sex marriage, and that he could thank Newsom, our governor, for. Because once that was the one thing that actually got the evangelical Christians to get up off their butts and vote was to hold back same-sex marriage. Other than that, they just don't vote. Amazing. Anyway, here I go on a tangent again. Let's use the Boy Scouts as an example. You're not the same kind of situation because they were forced. They were forced to go with the big tent, more appealing to a bigger audience by force. They were the Boy Scouts. Okay? Well, you got to have girls now. And LBGT, ABC, whatever the flip else. So what they had to do is change. They were no longer the same. You have to change things. Okay, this group can come in, or we have to do this or that, or make adjustments, or whatever the case is. So they had to change. The Republicans left their original message, or ignored it, or came more like their opposition. They were changed. No longer the same program. Now you might say, well, they evolved into something else, something that had a greater chance of winning. That could be a positive, you might think. I don't think so, but you can look at it that way. Same thing with the Boy Scouts. Oh, the sign of the times culture. They're evolving into something different. It's a good thing, whatever. But they aren't the same. They aren't the same thing they were before. They're no longer the Boy Scouts. Okay, name only. Christianity. Now, if you don't know much about Christianity, it's not just Christians and Muslims and others. Christianity has all these subsets. It's heavily divided, if you don't know that. I didn't know that when I first got into the faith. It took me years to figure this out. Different denominations, different doctrinal beliefs, vastly divided. Okay, that's just the way it is. Christianity in the late, I think they started this might be 50, 60 years ago now. I don't know exactly when, but I know this happened. Many denominations said, hey, we just aren't, and I think it was for money. They needed more people to come to church. But they were saying, there's people going to church. The new demographics, generations are coming up. They are not interested in Christianity. So they said, we need to change our program. And they went to something called a seeker friendly. People that were kind of interested, but maybe they weren't going to show up. But they might be interested, but there were too many negatives to get them drawn to church. And so they did that same program. One, we need to change the message, which they didn't so much change the message because they weren't going to tear pages out of the Bible. Two, they could ignore the message, which is what they did. Vast chunks of the Bible are, well, we're not going to, homosexuality, we're not going to talk about that. Repentance, we're not going to talk about that. We'll deal with that down the road. Maybe they come in, they get, more comfortable, then maybe we'll expose them to that, if at all. Or they could go join the other side. I don't know how that would work out, but you might think they did. But they changed their message or ignored it. Taught around things that were no longer user friendly. Homosexuality, especially this day and age. When you preach against homosexuality, there's a lot of people that believe that that's just the way people are born, and that would be that's like segregating or discriminating against a group. So it's not that at all, but another tangent. Anyhow, the Republican Party made changes to their program, their agenda, themselves, their image, to appeal to more people. Okay? The Boy Scouts were forced to do the same thing, to appeal to another group to get them involved. Not quite the same thing, but you get the picture. Christianity, on a large scale, did the same thing to increase participation, get more people to come to church. They changed themselves, the church, program, agenda, whatever, message, to get more people to join. Okay? Now, there are times when that is a good thing, like when you're marketing a product, a service, an automobile. If people want sports cars and you're selling 4x4s, you need to make a change. If your market says, we don't want 4x4s. Okay? So the market, the people that do the purchasing of your product, who participate in that manner, they direct where you go. Sometimes you can be really sharp with your marketing and force people into something, an SUV when they wanted a sports car, but yet you had to, that's marketing. That's different. But I think what happens is too often you take something like the gospel or the Boy Scouts or a conservative message that maybe the GOP might have had at one time, which they don't now. When you make that change to appeal to a wider audience, to get more people to show up, becoming seeker-friendly, okay, you weaken your message. You've weakened your stance. You've weakened your position. You're no longer the same. You're a lighter version of. The Republican Party is no longer as far as to the right as they once were. The Boy Scouts may not be producing the same sort of young men that they did 30 or 40 years ago. Christianity doesn't seem to be producing the same sort of Christians that once were out 50, 60 years ago and prior. Okay, my opinion there. It's just like, and I think the Marine Corps might be a bad example because they've had to make changes. But let's say they did. Let's say there was no women allowed in the Marine Corps. If you wanted to become a Marine, wear the uniform, you would end up having, they had a plan, they had a rigid plan, narrow tent, rigid, program that you had to fit into, be pressed into, rammed through. So when you came out the other side, you were a Marine. Okay. They didn't care about your ethnicity wasn't going to make this happen. Your gender wasn't going to make this happen. Brute force, abuse, and pounding discipline is what made you that Marine. But the key here is their program, their message, their agenda changed you. Okay? Marine Corps, boot camp, you're at the Pendleton, they beat the tar out of you. You get through this thing after however many weeks it was, boom, you come out a Marine. Okay, you are changed. You were processed to become a Marine. Not everybody got through, but most did, and it was very brutal. And on the other side, you become a Marine, okay, rifleman. But if the Marine Corps said, no one wants to be a Marine anymore, maybe we should change our message, maybe ignore our message, or adapt some other things. Let's, maybe we'll have like, casual Fridays. Instead of running around so often, we'll just take golf carts. We'll do this, we do that. Maybe let's get some more people involved. Let's get, old women and whatever, if they want to join. Get room for them. Well, you can do that. You can change that Marine Corps in that fashion and get a whole lot more people to participate and throw a uniform on them and call them a Marine, but they've not gone through the same process to all the ones that were prior to that change. Okay? They're not the same Marines. You're not producing Marines like you did prior to all that changing when you went for that seeker-friendly, mass appeal kind of approach. Okay? So I really have a problem. Why do I bring this up? I mean, if you're involved in an organization, if you're something you're following, whether it was the 10 Commandments or you're a, whatever, Republican or whatever your thing is. If you're involved in a group and someone says, hey, we need to get more people involved in our way of thinking, then maybe your message, and here's another thing, your message may not have the appeal to a mass audience. I don't know what to tell you, but if it's a good message, like the gospel does not appeal to a great many people. Okay? But that doesn't mean that I should be changing the gospel to fit more people. I'm not selling cars. Okay? So it's if hopefully I'm making sense. I had a hard time making this video because I kept going off on these tangents. But some things aren't meant to be changed to appeal to more people. They're the way that they are so they would change the people. Okay? The gospel, like the Marine Corps, you go through a process to be changed on the other side. You come out a Marine, you come out a Christian, or you come out you get a degree in this thing, you went through this hard school, whatever the case is. But too often now our culture goes out of the way to soften things up so we can kind of get more people through, appeal to more people, get more people. Hey, I want you to like me, kind of stuff. It ain't the Marine Corps. It ain't the gospel, and it shouldn't be the Republican Party or Democrat Party for that matter. You should not be trying to, if you're selling cars, yeah, your market decides what you produce. But when you're dealing with something, a different kind of message like the gospel or your political party or this kind of thing, I think when they try to remake themselves, often they are destroying themselves. Okay. Anytime someone's trying to appeal to the masses and they're not selling a widget, I get worried. Things are going south. I hope I made sense. I'm going to shut up. That's 13 minutes. Anyhow. Don't change your message. Let it change people. Other than that, I don't know what to tell you. Love you. God bless.